Recollections of a Boomer, Coffs Harbour to Collinsville, 1955 to 1957, by Pam Arnold of Berry, 2535. Narrated by Janine Penfold. The old white ute came to a jerking halt. My sister and I, seated in the back of the vehicle, immediately responded to our father's urgent instructions. "Get out quick and stand aside." The ute was carrying my father, mother, 4-year-old brother, my sister aged 10 and myself aged 7. There wasn't sufficient room for us to fit in the front with my parents and brother. However, when it rained, we made it work and crammed into the front, a dangerous exercise by today's standards. But from the tone of Dad's voice, we knew we needed to act. Dad raced back to the attached trailer and removed a long-handled hook. With the agility of a practiced bushman, he charged to the front wheel and began untangling a massive black snake firmly enveloped around the wheel. The snake wriggled and squirmed in a terse effort to remain in its position. Dad had inadvertently run over it. As on the old dirt roads we were travelling on, it was challenging to traverse such bush creatures, snakes and alike, basking in the generous Queensland sun. Before it could wrap itself around the garden hook, he was able to untangle the beast and cast it back into the bush. We stood mesmerised. It was 1955. This was the overture to our journey from Coffs Harbour to Collinsville in northern Queensland, a total distance of around 1,500 kilometres. Though likely further due to the various deviations my father needed to make through the rough, dusty, windy roads which traverse through parched, sandy creek beds, as well as swollen ones with sparse bridges offering a way out. Stray cattle, utterly immovable and unnegotiable in the middle of the road, were also undetected hazards as Dad would round a corner and come to a grinding halt. On one occasion, he tottered 10 miles up a road to locate a friendly farmer to help drag our punctured vehicle out of a huge, potholed rut. Thick red dust also obscured visibility. The road from Bowen to Collinsville was renowned as a rough bush track with an unsurpassed history of trial and terror. However, back then, the spirit of mateship prevailed should a crisis occur. As we travelled north of Brisbane, the typical January temperatures became unbearably hot. However, my sister and I enjoyed sitting in the back of the ute with the air brushing past our faces and pommelling our hair. One blistering hot day, when we stopped near a creek for lunch, the whole family indulged in a spot of skinny dipping. Dad later remarked that he had noticed a few eels eyeing us off in the watering hole, but withheld a warning. Unimpressed, we were left imagining ourselves as delectable eel bait. Finally, after several weeks of travelling, we arrived in Collinsville, with countryside barren and brittle compared to the lush green dairy country we'd left at Coffs. Dad was so very desperate to obtain work, and he secured a job in the Collinsville State Coal Mine, which allowed my parents to secure a modest and homely cottage. But the work was demanding, harsh and dangerous. A year prior to our arrival in Collinsville, 7 men and their 2 pit ponies had been killed in the deepest part of the mine. A disaster with the largest loss of life since the Mount Mulligan mine disaster in 1921. This event resulted in a further radicalisation of unions to protect workers, and Collinsville was soon nicknamed Little Moscow. Conditions in the mine were challenging and demanding, and families feared another tragedy. Dad, however, was a veteran of World War II and well equipped to look after the pit ponies who worked alongside in the mine. They were used to transport coal and other materials when machinery was unavailable to navigate narrow tunnels. Often sensing danger, they were known to brake prior to a roof collapsing, proving an invaluable asset, forming strong bonds with the miners. These robust and beautiful horses have earned their much-deserved place in history. A huge brass statue of a pit pony at Collinsville's entrance is proud testament to the pivotal role the ponies played. Our social life was restricted but memorable. We attended Sunday school at the Collinsville Methodist Church. The annual picnic took place in the shady banks of Pelican Creek, just outside the town. All the children were bundled into the back of farm trucks and driven to the dry creek bed on the outskirts. We ate toffee apples, fairy bread, played hide and seek. But by far the best activity was the sandcastle building competition, which took place in the parched creek bed. At dawn, we would ride our bikes down to the picture theatre, where soft drink bottles from the previous night's performance had been discarded. We, like many other children in the town, had latched on to the enterprising idea of cashing in the recyclable bottles for extra pocket money. In 1957, my parents made the heart-wrenching decision to return to Coffs Harbour. But our experience of living in Collinsville is indelibly printed on my memory. A recent visit to Collinsville revealed firm, sealed roads leading into the township. The impressive Olympic-sized pool, built in 1964 after we departed, must have made a tremendous difference to so many children in those hot Queensland summer months. Similarly, the Collinsville Library, which opened in 1982, a safe home for the imagination to be entertained on searing 40-degree days. However, it is the various tangible displays of respect and admiration for the contribution of the pit ponies who had played such a pivotal role in the town's development. They will always remain a symbol of my father's, and also my grandfather's, contribution to the life of Collinsville. My grandfather, who headed up the rescue unit in the mine in the 1940s, is buried in the Collinsville Cemetery. A touching paradox to be buried in close proximity to the mine, beneath the dusty earth, and still remains, where he spent most of his adult working life. The end.